What if the life you've been looking for isn't in America but somewhere beyond its borders? For many Americans, moving abroad once sounded like an extreme decision. Today, that idea is changing. Lower living costs, affordable housing, accessible healthcare, and the chance to enjoy a better quality of life are making life overseas more appealing than ever. But here's what makes this trend interesting. The destinations gaining attention aren't always the countries you'd expect. In this video, I'm revealing 10 countries quietly becoming America's escape route. Some are hidden gems that most Americans may struggle to find on a map, yet they offer incredible value, unique lifestyles, and new opportunities. So, which countries are people choosing, and what makes them worth considering? Let's find out. At number 10, Bulgaria. Bulgaria is the kind of destination that becomes interesting once you look beyond the usual American favorites. Sofia offers a genuine European city with restaurants, shopping, hospitals, universities, and public transportation, but without the price tag of many Western European capitals. With around $1,300 to $1,600 in monthly outside income, a person could potentially maintain a comfortable lifestyle, depending on housing choices. A one-bedroom apartment in Sofia may cost roughly $600 to $800, while smaller communities can be considerably cheaper. Private medical consultations may sometimes cost around $30 to $50. For someone living on a U.S. pension or investment income, those savings can leave more room for travel, dining, and hobbies. Bulgaria does have trade-offs. English becomes less common outside major cities, local wages are much lower, and bureaucracy can move at a pace that makes American patience feel like a superpower. Still, its location in southeastern Europe makes neighboring countries relatively accessible. Bulgaria isn't about luxury. It's about making a moderate income stretch further while experiencing a different part of Europe. Number 9. Malaysia. Malaysia offers something many low-cost destinations struggle to provide: affordability alongside modern conveniences. Cities such as Kuala Lumpur and Penang have modern apartments, huge shopping centers, international restaurants, fast internet, and well-equipped private hospitals. A one-bedroom apartment can often fall around $350 to $600 depending on location and quality, while local food can be inexpensive enough that eating out regularly doesn't have to destroy the budget. Healthcare is another advantage, with private consultations sometimes costing around $15 to $35. English is also widely used in many urban areas, which can make the transition easier for Americans. But Malaysia comes with one obvious drawback: distance. You're thousands of miles from the United States, and visiting family isn't exactly a casual weekend trip. The tropical heat and humidity also require adjustment. Malaysia makes the most sense for someone who genuinely wants an Asian lifestyle, not someone simply looking for cheap rent. For the right person, however, it can offer a surprisingly comfortable life at a fraction of many American city budgets. Number 8. Ecuador. Ecuador has caught the attention of Americans who want their money to stretch further, and Cuenca is one of the most interesting options. The city has mountain views, historic streets, local markets, plenty of restaurants, and a mild climate. There's also a growing international community, but Cuenca still feels like a real working city rather than a place built mainly for foreign residents. A one-bedroom apartment might cost around $400 to $500, while a careful individual could potentially manage everyday expenses around $1,000 to $1,200. Private medical consultations can sometimes run roughly $25 to $40. Public transportation is inexpensive enough that living centrally may also reduce or eliminate the need for a car. But Ecuador requires more than simply looking at the price tag. Security varies by region, and newcomers need to research individual neighborhoods carefully. Spanish becomes increasingly important outside international communities, and Cuenca's high elevation can take some adjustment. For Americans receiving pensions, investments, or remote income, though, the financial difference can become significant over time. Ecuador doesn't promise perfection. It simply gives moderate income more purchasing power, and for some Americans, that alone can change the retirement equation. Number 7. Colombia. Colombia stands out because cities like Medellin combine affordability with a surprisingly developed urban lifestyle. Surrounded by mountains and known for its comfortable climate, Medellin offers restaurants, shopping, hospitals, entertainment, and an extensive transportation network. Its metro and cable cars can reduce the need for private transportation, which means Americans may save not only on rent but also on cars, insurance, fuel, parking, and maintenance. A one-bedroom apartment in a less expensive part of the city might run you around $400 to $600 a month. Even a private doctor's visit can sometimes cost just $25 to $50. And when your basic expenses are that manageable, you have more money left over for things you actually enjoy, whether that's going out, traveling, or just keeping a little extra in the bank. Of course, Colombia requires preparation. Security can vary dramatically between neighborhoods, and Spanish becomes increasingly valuable in everyday life. The price difference is only part of the picture. Where you live matters, and understanding the area is just as important as the cost of rent. For someone earning in US dollars, Colombia can offer a busy, modern city lifestyle without the income you'd typically need for a similar city in the United States. Number 6. Uruguay. Uruguay takes a different approach. It isn't necessarily the cheapest country on this list, but its appeal comes from the overall quality and pace of life. Montevideo offers beaches, restaurants, hospitals, universities, and public transportation, while remaining smaller and less hectic than many major American cities. A one-bedroom apartment might cost around $550 to $750, while a couple could potentially spend roughly $2,500 to $3,500 per month for a comfortable lifestyle. Healthcare offers both public and private options, giving residents some flexibility. The catch is that Uruguay isn't a bargain basement. Imported products can be expensive, and some groceries may cost surprisingly close to American prices. The local economy is also relatively small, making it less attractive for someone hoping to build a new career from scratch. That's why Uruguay works particularly well for retirees, investors, and remote workers with outside income. You may not save as much as you would in Ecuador or Bulgaria, but you could gain something else, a calmer, more predictable lifestyle. And sometimes, after years of traffic, crowded cities, and constantly rushing from one thing to another, that may be worth more than saving a few extra $100 every month. Number 5. Turkey. Turkey brings a different energy to the conversation. Istanbul alone offers enormous neighborhoods, historic landmarks, markets, restaurants, and public transportation, while outside the city you'll find Mediterranean beaches, mountain regions, and ancient sites. A one-bedroom apartment away from premium districts might cost roughly $400 to $700, although desirable locations can move significantly higher. Food can be inexpensive when residents shop locally, and avoid relying heavily on imported products. Private healthcare is another attraction, with many consultations and treatments priced well below comparable American services. But Turkey has one big drawback that's tough to ignore. The economy can be unpredictable. Prices can change quickly, and shifts in the currency can make everyday expenses look very different from one month to the next. If you're living on a fixed retirement income, that can make planning your budget a little more complicated. You can't always assume that what costs $100 today will still cost $100 a few months from now. That makes long-term budgeting more difficult. But there's another side to the story. Few countries offer this much variety for people willing to adapt. You could spend a morning exploring a historic district, eat lunch at a neighborhood restaurant, and be planning a weekend beside the Mediterranean. The cultural experience is enormous, and major cities provide many of the services Americans expect from urban life. Language can create friction, bureaucracy may require patience, and economic changes can be difficult to predict. This isn't the easiest option for someone who wants a completely effortless transition. It is much more appealing to a person who enjoys discovering new places and doesn't mind adjusting expectations. Turkey's strength is not just the price of an apartment. It's the amount of culture, history, food, and travel that surrounds you once you've made the move. Number 4. Portugal. Portugal has changed significantly over the last decade. The country once carried a reputation as one of Europe's easiest bargains, but international demand has pushed prices higher, especially around Lisbon, Porto, and popular coastal communities. Still, there are reasons Americans continue to consider it. A single person might need around $1,700 to $2,200 each month, while a couple could potentially spend $2,500 to $3,500 depending on location and habits. A one-bedroom apartment outside central Lisbon may cost around $900 to $1,200, with prime neighborhoods going considerably higher. Moving farther from the biggest tourist centers can improve the housing equation. Healthcare remains another major attraction, with public services available to eligible residents and private providers offering additional choices. Private insurance may range from $50 to $150 monthly, depending on age and coverage. The real appeal, however, is the everyday environment. Many neighborhoods are walkable. Public transportation can reduce the need for a vehicle. Mild weather makes outdoor activities easier throughout much of the year. And the country is small enough that exploring different regions doesn't require enormous travel budgets. Portugal isn't the obvious choice for someone searching for the lowest possible rent. It works better for an American who wants European living while keeping expenses within reach of a moderate outside income. Local salaries are much lower than typical US earnings, so bringing your own income makes a major difference. The country also requires realistic expectations about housing. The bargain still exists in some places, but it isn't hiding in every famous coastal town anymore. Portugal's appeal now comes from lifestyle rather than real expense. You're paying for walkability, climate, transportation, and access to the rest of Europe. For someone approaching retirement, those qualities can be worth considerably more than a cheap apartment in an isolated location. Number 3, Mexico. Mexico has something that Europe and Asia simply can't replicate for most Americans: proximity to home. For people living in Texas, Arizona, or California, crossing the border can mean changing countries without changing your relationship with the United States. Family visits can remain manageable, flights are often short, and returning for holidays doesn't require planning a transatlantic journey. The country also offers enormous variety. Mexico City provides global city energy, Mérida brings colonial architecture and a slower pace, and Guadalajara offers culture and a large urban economy, while smaller destinations can deliver a quieter experience. In many places, a single person might live comfortably on around $1,500 to $2,000 per month. A one-bedroom apartment outside premium districts could cost roughly $500 to $800, although desirable coastal areas can go far higher. Private medical consultations often run around $30 to $60, making routine care much more approachable than what many Americans experience at home. But Mexico demands careful location research. Security can differ dramatically between regions, popular communities have experienced rising housing costs, and bureaucracy can be frustrating. The mistake is assuming that every destination marketed toward foreigners offers the same experience. It doesn't. The neighborhood, city, and even street can matter enormously. What Mexico does offer is flexibility. You can potentially lower housing, food, healthcare, and transportation costs while remaining close enough to American family networks. That's a powerful combination for someone who wants to experiment with living abroad without completely severing ties with home. You don't have to choose between an American lifestyle and becoming permanently disconnected. Mexico can sit somewhere in the middle. The strongest reason to consider it isn't that everything is cheap. The advantage is that an American can lower everyday expenses without giving up too many of the comforts and conveniences they're used to. Number 2, Panama. Panama makes one part of international relocation unusually simple for Americans. The US dollar is used throughout the economy. That means someone receiving a pension, investment income, or remote salary doesn't have to constantly calculate exchange rates just to understand everyday spending. A single person could potentially manage around $1,500 to $2,000 monthly, while a couple seeking greater comfort might spend approximately $2,500 to $3,500. A one-bedroom apartment outside Panama City's most expensive areas can sometimes cost around $600 to $900, though premium buildings are substantially higher. Healthcare adds another reason the country attracts Americans. Panama City has modern private hospitals, and routine consultations may cost around $30 to $60. Qualifying retirees can also investigate the Pensionado program, which has made Panama especially recognizable among international retirement communities. Then comes the geographic advantage. Miami is only a few hours away by air, meaning family connections don't become nearly as complicated as they would after moving to Europe or Asia. That can be incredibly important when you're trying to build a new life without abandoning the people who remain in America. Panama has weaknesses. Traffic can be exhausting, humidity is intense, and desirable neighborhoods are no longer bargain territory. Outside major urban centers, services and infrastructure can vary. But the country doesn't need to be the cheapest destination to be useful. Its strength is convenience. Dollar-based finances, private healthcare, international connections, and relatively easy access to the US create a package that works especially well for retirees and remote workers. You're not just comparing rent, you're considering how easily you can manage money, see family, and access essential services. Panama performs well across all three, which is why it continues to attract Americans even as other destinations compete aggressively on price. Number 1. Spain. Spain earns the top position because it brings together many of the things Americans usually have to search for separately. Valencia offers a strong example. A single person might spend around $1,700 to $2,200 monthly, while a couple could potentially need $2,500 to $3,500, depending on accommodation and lifestyle. A one-bedroom apartment outside the center can often fall around $700 to $1,000, although highly desirable neighborhoods and coastal properties can be expensive. Then transportation changes the calculation. Spain has extensive public transit, high-speed rail, and cities where walking is genuinely practical. For an American household accustomed to one or two vehicles, reducing car ownership can remove thousands of dollars in annual expenses. Healthcare is another major advantage. Eligible residents can use the public system, while private insurance and clinics provide an alternative. Private insurance can sometimes cost around $50 to $150 a month for one person, while private doctor visits may run roughly $40 to $80. But the real appeal goes beyond these individual costs. It's the interaction between them. You can walk to a bakery, take a train to another city, eat at a neighborhood restaurant, and reach the coast without turning every outing into a major expense. That creates something difficult to measure: more freedom in ordinary life. Spain isn't perfect. Housing pressure has increased in popular cities, local wages remain well below American levels, bureaucracy can be slow, and anyone relocating from the US needs to understand their tax responsibilities. Distance from family can also be emotionally and financially difficult. Still, Spain provides a rare balance of healthcare, transportation, infrastructure, climate, culture, and livability. That's why it rises above the other choices. The larger story isn't that Americans must leave the US, it's that they have more options than previous generations did. Someone working remotely can earn in dollars and live elsewhere. A retiree can compare medical systems before committing to a destination. A household overwhelmed by American housing costs can investigate different markets. Maybe Spain is the answer. Maybe Panama or Mexico makes more sense. And maybe the US remains the best fit. The important part is having a genuine choice instead of assuming there is only one way to build a comfortable future. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Which country would you actually choose? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering affordable destinations and hidden gems around the world, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next time.